Okay, hello and welcome. As you can probably see from the angle and everything, I have a new setup or slightly adjusted one, quite huge. So we'll see how we'll kind of go through this. This is Storyteller's World Building. My name is Jan Dvorak. I'm known as Storyteller or Storyteller CZ online, and this is my bi-weekly show where I'll do my world building and I'm building in the open. And we still have the old banner that where you can sponsor me online. So this is sponsored by Literary Universe, which is a company I founded, which is really awesome for building, or been kind of built from the ground up for helping in building, expansive story universes. So that's where, kind of all this is coming together. And today, per a request, I will be kind of explaining and building more the species that are in my universe called Struggle for Balance. So we'll be looking into that. I think it's time for me to start slowly opening things up here. Let's open up my writing folder. And let's see how we are going to do this. Actually, I have a new screen in my edition, but I think that would be too huge. So let me move things around. In the meantime, get your tea, get your notes, get your some snacks, relax, and let's build some, improvements to my Struggle for Balance world. So almost there. So many things to do today. That's when you have too many jobs. So also in the background, you might occasionally hear I'm right now a nanny for 2 little dogs. So that's why I have the door open, everything. So if you hear some weird noises, it's probably the doggies coming in and demanding something. But I've tired them after going out with them, so hopefully that should not be a problem. So also anytime during the broadcast, feel free to kind of give me any questions or anything. I'll be happy to answer. So okay, here I have my writing folder with all the different options, and here I have my Struggle for Balance. And where I really want to start with is kind of give the explanation of who is who, what do they do, who are they, and then explore further some of the concepts and ideas behind them. So last time we've covered kind of the inciting, you could say, incident for the Sol Confederacy, which means I will have to, let me see if I can make this more interesting size-wise. No, probably not. So I will have to rename some of the regions and to kind of see, to make it better. Let's see, I should, or maybe I will have to move so I can kind of, because I have my screen over here and that doesn't look good here, unless maybe, oh well, good enough, I guess, over here. So I'll kind of have to, or even better, or maybe not. Yeah, that's, I'm not important the story in the world is. So we have the souls. That's so that's kind of the evolution of humans to live in space. It's a confederacy, and in this case, meaning in what actually the definition of confederacy is. It's a loose, I could say, union where the member states usually uh, have more power and kind of say what's going on. So let me kind of start pulling up together all the references. There we go. It's a political union of sovereign states united for a purpose of common action, usually created by a treaty. Confederations of states tend to be established for dealing with critical issues such as defense, foreign affairs, internal trade, or currency, with the central government being required to provide support for all its members. The nature of among the member states confederation varies considerably, so it's very loose. That's kind of the main thing. It's not what. And this actually, if you look at history, for example, of the American Confederacy, before but there was a constitution, all that stuff. It did not really work out because it was, it could not levy its own taxes and could not really provide for commons defense and other things. So that's why there was reform when there was then the constitution that we know today. So confederacy in this case is very similar because in space is actually much more easier. Every system kind of is kind of like semi-independent, you could say. They kind of do their own thing, and within their small region, they have great autonomy. The only thing that's kind of shared is the currencies or the multiple currencies that are used for different purposes. Cheers to crypto boys on that. And following from that, even the defense forces, local defense forces, are very powerful, and the Seoul Confederacy, as it on its own, doesn't really have that much when it comes to military force, because the idea is that when there's a threat, they kind of come together, of course, under united command of the Seoul Confederacy, but they are kind of still very much independent, and Confederacy kind of deals with foreign issues, trade, and internal disputes. And that said, that brings me to the other four nations, or you could say species, that are present in my universe. I'll start with the oldest and going to the youngest. Though I start with the Seoul Confederacy, which is the youngest of the bunch. What we have first is the Ashonian Union. And let me see if I can. I will have to quickly do it here. So the Ashonian Union is, in a sense, of course, it's the oldest spacefaring species in the known universe, and it's kind of the essential, say, grace and most advanced technologically as well, and kind of could say arrogant. They can keep together to themselves, so they're very isolationist. And here I have expand that. Here is some concept images that my designer has been kind of putting together. So this is pretty accurate. I think also another big comparison, nice comparison, would be to the Asgards from Stargate SG-1. These guys are usually are a bit more taller, but otherwise, they have kind of this air of mystique. They are a good friend. You don't want to really become their enemies, because then for them war is more of a, in most cases, they don't take it that much seriously because of how advanced they are. They take it seriously. They don't want to get into it, but then they get into it. If there was like some war happening with any of these, most of it would be just mad scientists going and being like, okay, finally I can test all the things that I had in my labs that I could not test because of some consideration. Now I have live targets that I can play with and test it with. So that's kind of where they are. So they mostly keep to themselves. Of course, they're kind of still involved, but they don't, mostly don't really see them outside of their territory or outside of like any official capacity. So it's mostly you will see their military, you will see their diplomatic corps, um, maybe some leaders occasionally, but beyond that, like that individual would travel beyond the Estonian Union. Uh, with the exception of a few of scholars who study other species or do some other specific research that they have to go outside, or it's better to go outside of Ocean Union, then you will not really see them. As a result, the other species don't really know much that about them, but they know that they are technologically very much advanced, and they don't want to kind of get um, into any conflict or misunderstanding with them. That said, also since they are isolationists, you cannot, any of their species, um, they cannot enter the Estonian Union, and it's very difficult to get in. You have to have like a very special privilege, and yeah, if you try to go illegally, the border is very well and heavily monitored, so it's next to impossible to get in without being located and pretty much destroyed. They don't really care that much about you. So if there's any violation of the border, unauthorized, they'll give you one warning, and if you don't heed it, they'll just destroy you. So that's that. So Toral Union is a bit interesting, more interesting. Let's get back to the concept art. So you'll see kind of they're very similar to the Ashonians. Or one more thing for Ashonians, they're kind of, with their advanced technology, they are very much into science, very advanced, and they don't, very like logical, and they don't really care for emotions or a lot of the emotional things, but they do also have internal strife. While are kind of the opposite of them, which really is a constant headache for the Ashonians, because Troel are actually an evolutionary offshoot of the Ashonians. Back in the early days of colonization, one of the colony ships got lost. It was heavily damaged when it landed on the planet where they landed, and normally, they would terraform the planet and engineer everything. It would be fine without the changes. They had to in this case, they had to adapt their genes to survive, and eventually, later on, they evolve more like a psychic abilities, being able to feel uh, emotions and communicate. And this is quite funny, because normally you would say, okay, they're psychic, they would be like zen and peace and everything. Out of all the five species, especially when you compare it like later on to Grimnars, they are the most brutal and unruly, and you could say out of control one that there is. So they are constantly at each other's throats. I think another good comparison would be, that whole union. It's official union, but in a sense, it's similar to Greek warring states of antiquity. So they are constantly at each other, uh, constantly shifting alliances and all the other, if you say it, all other things that you can imagine. The psychic powers. There's a lot of brutal royal that enjoy the fighting, killing, or other uh, you know disgusting things. But at the same time, also their children, uh, they don't really interact with any outsiders, because in their early development they are very sensitive to a lot of these external stimuli, and so that's why they kind of try to keep them away from any outsiders, especially if it's like another species that doesn't even know how to control properly their emotions. But it's also a reason why they are so, say, out there with their behavior and everything else. So that's that's the trial. Next, we have the Yatkto collective, and this one is a bit, you could say, special. You could say, bugs and all those things. I think one more, and let me grab that. I do have some concepts here, so let me see if I do have the one I'm looking for. So here is like another classical ship that they have. I should have the, yes. This is like another look, say for that they could have, but in essence, they are a insectoid species. You could say, think of giant spacefaring ants. Um, you have the um, different castes. Of course, you have the queen's caste, you have the workers' caste, you have the warriors' caste, and they also now you have also diplomatic caste, which is kind of mix between a worker and a queen. In that way, it's also designed that it can communicate with other species. Hence diplomatic caste and all that stuff. The queens control uh, you could say, their respective hives, and at the top is the ruling hive, which is where the kind of names comes from, and then you have the queen mother, which rules the entire species. It is that as a queen can kind of force or override the different workers, warriors, and command them to do things against their will to a limited degree, and especially given depending on how far away it is from from that queen. But usually, of course, the queen for the hives can control their hives. Queen mother can control the entire species besides her home hive. So that's kind of how they are. The queens, they have nice, really huge, nice wings that allow them to fly, and if kind of shine light through it, creates a very nice effect. Um, just by definition, very collective species. They have primarily, let's say, biological ships, which are kind of grown, and what you have is kind of then adjustment that once a worker or like a soldier becomes a captain of a ship, that's for life. They are specifically adjusted, and it's very rare that the captain survives the death of the ship, or there isn't like really much of a reassignment or anything like that. So it's like a very close bond, and that's very very common on that. um there are some not. I think this is where I still need to have a lot of talk uh, with my designer about how exactly they will look. So normally they actually have like uh, they have, let's say, four legs, two hands if they stand up, or they can go on all six to move at a greater speed, or do like bridges together, or uh, other adjustments. With normal workers, outsiders or like other species cannot really, or it's very difficult uh, to communicate. Uh, so that's why there's the diplomatic caste. Um, yeah, let's see what else can I think about. So it's very much biotechnology. One big thing that they have, besides their number, is they have what's called right now. It's just called the Star Crest. I still kind of have to build more about it, and that's kind of, if you remember from Stargate SG1 0 point module, it's kind of equivalent to that. Looks very similar. It's something that they grow, um, and it's only they and the Asian Union have it, uh, and have the capability to produce it. And it's a very kind of the most powerful source of energy that there is. So that's what makes them powerful besides their numbers. So you know, trolls are kind of, looked into themselves, so they don't really care about them. Ashonians don't really think much, because they have mass destruction weapons like you have no idea, so they are not threatened by their numbers or anything. They, if anything, they kind of like the efficiency and all the math that goes into the collective. But the Grimnar and the Soul, the military, could say strategists, everything, they do fear the military power of the collective, because just it's similar like to the Russian tactics over the years. Nas no go, it's just like they will just kind of roll over you with their numbers. So that's why they are. That's kind of also what one of the worries for many others. So next we have Grimnar Empire. I had a lot of fun working on this one. Let's jump. Yes, this is also not good concept art. Think. Let's see. Some of the good concept that I can think of be like this little creature. So the Gribnar, I see something, between, you could say, an alligator, a crocodile, or this creature and a dinosaur. So they are huge, 3 meters in length. You can count them in length, because they most often are like they're oftentimes on their fours, but they have like huge tail as well, and of course scale. They do enjoy that there a lot of it's mostly, could say, marshes and uh, not so deep waters on their home world, Grimdor. Um, so that's kind of the environment they have uh, kind of evolved, so they can they're fine underwater and above water. Um, yeah, they're quite lethal warrior, but also very much honor bound. So that's uh, that's something to keep in mind. They had their unification, you could say, in what would be the equivalent of our late Middle Ages. So in that aspect, they had their planetary unification in that, but also at the time, it wasn't that they were spread across the entire planet. They were kind of confined, so it was much more easier to achieve, and they kind of really spread out of that. You have it's a imperial, so it's a monarchy, and if we look at the map, we see in the middle is the imperial domain with the home world, and that's what managed by the emperor. The emperor is chosen. It's a very special process where the current emperor chooses who is going to be the selector or the chooser of the next emperor, and then that selected person has to kind of test and prepare, kind of look for the next emperor, and after the emperor's death, the new emperor is declared. So um, through that. Before entering the selection, this person has quite a lot of power, but that kind of ends when with the new emperor being chosen. That person cannot choose their own house or like any of the, could say, allies, and which also kind of lately led to that. A lot of the times it was somebody prominent, somebody who really has, or somebody who kind of the emperor sees that they have that something to be able to select the next emperor. So that's very special. But then around the emperor domain, we have the six main, or you could say, Grimnar houses and their territories. Can I each specialize on different things, and from that, there will be kind of like their smaller, houses that are kind of under the main house. So it's usually the six main houses that are kind of the deciding force behind the empire. Or in that empire, it's very, we could say, relatively centralized. It has a strong military force. That's what it's known for. Despite, you could say, how spread it is, everything, it's still very loyal to the center. Then, of course, each house has their own, could say, military force and fleets, but that usually is um, to people to retire from the main military or to kind of get prepared to go into the main, national military. Then you have, above that, you have the Imperial Guard, which is another big honor to be chosen for that. But it's not just when it comes to military prowess, but that's kind of still a big lens how they look at things. How does what I'm doing help my house and the prestige of my house? Is it honorable? All those things you know play play a role in kind of this is how the society is built on. They have a, you could say, a holy book from the one of the founders of the empire, which they reference a lot for kind of what is the best practice. Of course, it's been through commentaries and other adjustments and interpretation has been updated to the current time, but it still plays a um, significant role in how they approach life. So that's kind of very quickly the different species and all those things that go into it. Um, so I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to best uh, portray Grenars, and I think the this is so far probably the closest, but just just make it 3 meters long and with these armor and full mouth of sharp teeth and claws and all those things. But it's so then of course their architecture is very massive as well, so that all comes into play. Let's see anything. Whoops. Let's see if I can find anything interesting here. Just different sci-fi concepts. So not much else here. That's we've covered already. Okay. So that's kind of the concept, and today I'm here to kind of answer your questions, and I will go to Literary Universe and see how much of what I've said is in my wiki or in the encyclopedia, and that will be under species. Let's get me some sugar. So let's go the other way around. Hmm. Okay, I have to check something here because I am not so sure that should be this and this. So just give me a moment. Just want to make sure before I start messing with this too much. Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Yikes. But this is actually a good. This is just because it's been a very, very long time since I've actually changed things, so much so that it looks like I'm no longer even putting things out here. Oh, wow. Not. Let me refresh. Not even the description. That will load. Okay. So yeah, it's been a super long time. This is kind of from the early days of the universe. So it's not. Still has it has like so the old data format. So that's why I'm going to redo this. This is work in progress, and so they are. It's not lizard. It's a question because dinosaurs were birds, so going in there, but they are not. I just need to quickly help from a translator over here. Let's see. So they are amphibians. They're amphibians. Around 3 meters tall, with a long tail, scales for skin. So I want to find here the Grimnar Empire. Oops. Oh, it didn't work. I'll have to fix this. This is an issue with the select. That's been going on for way too long, and it will be until probably HTML has some nice equivalent that from what I need. Oh, that's everything it was here. Looks like it. So that means we can kind of work on that. And Grim Dome. Okay, so it's probably just not displaying. Yikes. Okay, for next time. Next information. This is the home world. So here we go. So for generations, was a planet with whirling city state, which later evolved into Grimnar houses. At the turn of the first Grimnar millennium, six major cities houses emerged as the most powerful, result in forming the first states. Let's see. First states, and the original city states transform into houses which ruled the states. Secured as the dominant species, although Grimnar skirmishes started between the houses with increasing frequency. So, around 2000 years from the first historical records, let's see. So what happened there? I actually have a story for that as well. Which I'm looking to write in much later, or maybe actually not even write it, because first of all, there are no humans involved, so that kind of decreases the commercial potential of the story, and it will be very difficult to write, so I'll kind of have to do the abridged version. But what we have is let's say one of the not the first son, but like third or fourth son of one of the houses, and he gets it's like kind of their equivalent of political marriage to a priestess of influential Rhine, and they kind of these two establish kind of their own power. Power base, kind of away from everybody, and they're, let's say, very much technologically uh, progressive, and kind of keep to themselves, because they know if they poke their heads too much, then uh, they other houses and everything would kind of go after them, because the house that they are from is not that powerful, in the grand scheme of things. But one day, a um, one they kind of notice a Grimnar that's being pursued by another group of Grimnars. They save that Grimnar, and that Grimnar then becomes, you could say, their general. And once their house is kind of attacked and taken over, they fight back, and with their advanced technology, including weaponry, um, they have the advantage, and they are able to build on that advantage, and eventually really go on, and through diplomacy, and they amass good military force to overpower, say, the other houses. It's sometimes diplomacy easy, but most of the time it's pretty brutal fighting. But thanks to the grandmother, they're saved, and they don't know which house he is from or anything about his background. He kind of keeps that close to his chest, and that remains a, let's say, historical mystery to the present day of the story. Who actually was he? So that's something that kind of remains a mystery. And I need to open up another window because it's been a while and I forgot the names. And there is a scene in Myron incident in the first chapter where the emperor discussed this. Let's see. We have the emperor at that time. Yoixi. And then we have these guys. Yes. Okay, here we go. Zaknar is the philosopher and master strategist. They record a and where Resnor. I'll have to probably fix this. Saved a fleeing Renor named Zaknar. Named Zaknar. They formed an alliance, and later when the another thing is they also have it. They kind of start with what's the most important in their name. So Nahari. Oh, that was interesting. That should not be. Yeah, that's a typo there. So Nahari. Shows how many revisions I had through the years. Because the apostrophe there, that's read as H. Emperor. So save this. Form an alliance, and later when the Naari house was attacked, they successfully led the remaining forces and through land the Am I so tired I cannot even type today properly? Pain united or conquered? Conquered all the Grimnar houses. During this time, Gnar completed his book that details the unification together with extensive, not really musing, extensive, how should I say it? Together with extensive sections on how one should conduct themselves in life. So, book of Zaknar became the philosophical foundation of the nation, of the empire. So the next section will be what we kind of care here, planetary conquests, and then we have beginning of space exploration. Um, 100 years after the empire was established, the imperial capital was being built. With the time of strife over, there was new enthusiasm and hunger for knowledge. At the then outskirts of the city, a new area was built. New area was established to promote knowledge sharing. So let's say 8 years. Actually, no, this will be much shorter. 3 years after. And we are talking here, apologies, that will be standard years. So this will actually be something like that. And yeah, after vacation and imperial decree, establish the imperial institute of knowledge. This institution was became the first of its well, actually was not first, but this institution gathered Turing and curious Grimnars, and soon they set to map all the corners of the planet. Colonization became easier with new technologies, and soon followed the explorers. So in the next 100 years, the entire planet has been what would be say colonized. Well, the doggy is not happy under the empire. And that's like another big thing, because what we see with our colonies, like here on Earth, they usually kind of then went their own way. Not so with Grimnar. So just, that is unthinkable. So they are, the colonies stuck kind of together and continue to establish things. So that's 334 years after unification. Unification Grimnars turn their focus towards the stars. Imperial court predicted that they would soon be that in the future they would be faced with population crisis, and the Imperial Institute of Knowledge was tasked with finding solutions. After much debate and research, it was decided that the main focus will be to reach for the stars. The pledging the few that were working on space flight got massive boost in resources and personnel. In the next 10 years, and in the next 10 years, they actually managed to release, they started establishing low orbit. Is it I think like this low orbit stations, and in the next 30 years first outposts were established through the system. Good. So yeah, that's like very, very quickly. Should I say it? That would be very quickly how they managed to do it. The big thing there is that once Grimnars kind of establish or kind of decide for something, they usually like really go fully in and don't look back. That's so now we go back to the description here, and let's take a look. Okay, planets is empty for now. Going to take a break in a little bit once we finish this, and before we continue. So Grimnars are lizard-like looking. So now let's kind of pull that back up. Grimnars are amphibians. Grimnars are amphibians. I think that's a good start. They are very hard scales that covers their skin. They prefer to walk on their 4 legs with sharp claws, but have no problems to stand on 2 if the situation demands it. Their main focus is the way of the warrior, teaching based on the book Zaknar. Let me just not mess this up. She harrows the youngsters, but only small proportionally stays on the warrior path. In this case, being part of the military. As it may not seem, Grimnar have a very strong democracy, uh, very strong constitutional monarchy. Where skills are more important than popularity. Uh, that has been mastered over centuries, and now the teachings of war are basic for everything in their society. Practically, it's the first thing that matters. If it's nice looking, that is a nice bonus. On the ground, they like to use their traditional spear when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, but before like war, they added human swords into their armaments. As their homeworld has slightly higher gravity than most of the planets, not to talk about swamps and deserts, they are fast and agile, and with the combination of their tails, which has thorns, they have no match in close combat. On distance, they prefer to use heavy weaponry as they can compare their species. Prefer to use heavy weaponry and have the strength to carry a lot of heavy armament compared to other species. I think I'll have to revise this a little bit because it's kind of mixing a lot of different things. So let's try to save this. Great. So that's the Grinar. Then the Ashtoni will be in a similar pickle. So let's do them next, and let's save. Oh, do I have actually? It doesn't look. Let me double check again. That I have the correct ID or the. Interesting. I don't have any entries here. Interesting. So let's. The only thing I'm going to do is put this into work in progress. And I need to actually put in the summary, which is again using the old. There we go. Summarize using the old format, which I'm going to work. So that's that. So that's Ashoni. Oh, that's going to be difficult to put in. Let's quickly jump to Troll. It's like, a lot of our things. So this is the early. Oh, it looks this one actually has this here. Wait, I wanted to put it as a work in progress. And let's see, we have here for Yadokto. And then we have some fields that that I have to fill back in. Of course, everybody loves to learn about reproduction. Every teenage boy curiosity. So let's see what I have written back in the day. So there's as a high species of reproduction based around their hive queens. This only slightly changed through the ages. The queens have evolved to be able to use energetic information and have become expert at it. Pretty much the queens, they also are like a walking laboratory, biological laboratory, and that's quite to their benefit. Sections allow them to produce of all shapes and sizes and address genetic defects that have plagued them before unification due to inbreeding. It's actually a lot of what people don't realize, that there is pretty much all the, let's say, ants and bees and all that thing, that's all inbreeding, because it's like from the same height, from the same mother. They do have like genetics to really minimize the effects of inbreeding, especially compared to other species. So, but it's still something that that can be a problem for them. This expertise allowed them to produce. Yes, I've read that. After first contact and the emergence of individualism, the rapid production of hive workers have been seized in favor of growing more individualistic and specialized workers. So then they have this thing. So they have the binding was in it for them based on proto-binding system that the queen and princesses had at the time, and after a few iterations it was introduced between the queens. Yet even after all the queens did not extend the relative rights to the workers, the ongoing point of contention in the Hierarchical society. If a Waynu pair wishes for children, let me change it. This is so Waynu is like a special system, that pretty like a pair bonding system that pretty much pairs bonds you for life if you get into that. So at that point, any romantical feelings or anything like that, you're only going to have for your Venu partner. You will have very strong protective feelings and urges for your children and the rest of the family. Of course, it's not like if somebody bumps into them by accident that you're going to murder that other person. That's not how it works. It actually it's like really for life-threatening things that really it activates. So, okay, the win system to use between the general population. So what actually happened in their first contact? They encountered the Ashoni and realized that they are an individualistic species, which was they've kind of got it, kind of understood that that's kind of how other species are sometimes. So, and they realized that first of all they need a new caste of diplomats that allows them to communicate. That was first thing, but in order kind of to also operate on the large distances and everything, so that the queens just their brains don't melt, or as they kind of control, or they've seen the benefits of individualism, and they wanted to kind of to get those benefits. They didn't care for the detriments that much. That's why they have the Venus systems, why they still control let's say the reproduction. So they did copied, you could say, some of the best things for their um, for the individualistic workers, or they're like not fully individualistic. They have through their, could say, telepathy. If I want to oversimplify, they still have uh, I could say the hive mind. It's become more, you could say, what internet is for as humans. Place where you can get any information that you need, and of course, there are certain limits to what you can get, but you can get most of the information, can communicate with the rest of your hive, and so if something happens, then you can kind of let the hive know when, for example, or if somebody. That's also why it makes infiltration so much difficult, because if you killed, say, one worker or somebody on patrol, uh, normally, with humans, it can take, for example, hours before you notice that a patrol is missing. Usually with the alcohol tool, it could be either immediate, or if you really manage it to do it really, really well, then it's going to take in matters of minutes before they noticed. So, and even like the slowest queen and hive is going to react again in matters of minutes, maximum tens of minutes to that. So, uh, standard infiltration or anything, or like surprise attacks, are uh, next to impossible on that. If any purchase fortune, they have to submit petition to their respective hive queens, because there can be multiple. You can have actually the ruling queen, and then you have kind of, you could say, the brooding or the offspring producing queen. The petition is accepted. After confirming that the pair is prepared to raise an offspring, they submit their genetic materials to the queen, which then produces youngling for them. That's kind of one way to do it. There's more ones, and they always have still in the background, or like they can always return to mass production if necessary. But the thing is, with the more individualistic workers, they kind of needed that for research and other things, because there's a limit to what you can kind of get, say, the ideas and other things with hive mind. So they wanted to overcome, could say, the limits of that. Okay, and then we have sauce and everything else. Okay, I'm going to take a very quick, let's say, bathroom break, or I'll check on the doggos, see if they are up to no good, or what are they doing. They seem to be a little too quiet for my taste. Normally they are all over here, but maybe just because I'm talking. And then I'll be back. In the meantime, please do, let me know in the comments that you are alive, that you are not an AI or a bot watching this, and let me know if you have any questions on the species so far, or which one would you like me to focus on more. I think we have nothing here really for the Ashoni, and let's see, we haven't really touched the trial much either, so that is still an option. And let's see, I think I'll have to use this screen. Let's say loop, and let me just quickly double check what else can we do here with. Okay. Okay, and I'll be right back. Time to grab some more refreshments for everybody. See you in a few moments. Okay, I am back. Before we continue, if you like what I'm doing, hit the like button. You can subscribe for more videos. I do this every other week, and next week I have open source times, so that will be. You can kind of sponsor me on GitHub for that, or even for this. I still have to kind of get my Literary Universe sponsorship up as well, so that's going to take a bit. So kind of want to end within like the next 20 minutes or so, because that will be probably when these guys want to start demanding another outing. Anyway, I've got more tea and we'll be able to get it. So Dia showed me the concept of them is, kind of the smart guys that, kind of want to be left alone with their experiments. Highly, maybe not necessarily, I would not necessarily call them individualistic. I think that would be an unfair characterization, but definitely, more than the Iarhoctol or the Grimnar. They are much more individualistic. They much more care about themselves and their evolvement. So Ashoni are the most advanced of all this race in the known universe. In the ancient mythology, they are referred to as Igigi, as it is their home planet. So just kind of poking fun at, you could say, all the conspiracy theories about, the grays and and similar in this manner. So let's see. We don't really have anything here, and we have see here action institute for prodigy, the action in union, so that's a related entry. So what are we going to add here? We'll add a text field. Actually, so that's the first one. So we want to cover history. Another text field where we want to cover how they look like. Looks. Estonians are tall in stature, but not taller than 2 meters. They have white. They have often white or gray skin, and it's not really not scales, but how would I describe this? That's a good question. Because I don't think they would even have a regular skin, because they are super heavy on technology, so it would be more accurate to describe they have like scaly skin, because that's just a layer of nanites. So let's just skip that. Their most imposing feature is their head with 2 large black eyes. So it's eyes. It's not really composite like we would see with Yarhuktul, but it's just that this deep void you are looking into. So there is not not really, nothing really unsay, just like the darkness of space, and it's actually evolved to be more adjusted to be on in space. It's their planet is also not as close to their stars, so it's much colder than we have here on Earth. But also not maybe like not so like colder, but less light. So they have been kind of always more. So if you like, then you look at the Cocteau, their eyes are actually much smaller because the planet that they ended on had much more light. So they had kind of to adjust, otherwise they would just be blind. Let's see. They often wear clothes in the color of their skin. Skin type clothes is most common and showing of importance where they were like robes, but not as could say, they are not like that. They have not pompous. The just let me check what would be the word. Yes, wear modest robes. So this is also kind of related, you could say, again, to space flight and all that stuff. And that's primarily because you don't want something that's going to flail around or anything like that. You want something that's more skin tight, so that you don't get stuck by anything. So that's why if you have like a rope or anything more than that, it means you are somebody who doesn't have to care about those things, and means that you're of higher stature, of importance. Different colors on the robes signifies position and heritage. I will just care about the position. So that's for the looks. For history, not much is known of the Estonian history, and they are very secretive about it and anything else in general. So due to their age, they have been at first contact with all of the other known species. So they have been always pretty much there. They have been always there, so they were like the first to have the first contact with the rest of the other species, and that of course has a significant impact on those other or the other species. So and that their foreign policy was of non-intervention and isolationism. So to kind of take the Argelect War, which was an uprising of they probably enhanced members of all the species because of ideology that propagated that say, we are enhanced, so we should be, in the leadership position. We should be, leading the masses, the unwashed masses, and so the classics, which and there was also some AI, you could say, related to that, primarily because of infiltration. Otherwise, AI doesn't really have a reason until you put it into the fighting position to rebel. So the Artelect War came as a surprise to the Ashuni, but they very quickly recovered and expelled Artelect from their core systems. It was a bloody fight, which resulted in destruction of many systems. And set back the Ashonian technology a few, not really decades, but it was like a century. Sent back technology, set back the Ashon, set back the technological progress. It is unknown how much that was for the Ashoni, but it is estimated that in this they were the hardest hit. As a result, they were merciless against the Artelect and established hyperspace wall. Let's just establish the wall to prevent any Artelect escapees. So the wall, that's another big thing. As a result of the Artelect war, they actually built this wall. No, not the let's see, is it called? There we go, the wall. So which very much inhibits hyperspace, so you cannot go through it. And it was to, you might have seemed silly in the war, especially it was in a phase that was not doing so well. So we don't have just the wall around the known space, but also there are like divisions internally, so that there could be, say, no surprise no surprise attacks in a way. But it was, at first glance, it looked silly. Why you, was, locking everybody in if you don't know that you are going to uh, win the war. But again, this is kind of the uh, say back to the Ashoni mentality. And for them, it was, oh, you think that you are, we are locked in here with you? No, you are locked in with us here. We are going to massacre you. Which it took a while, but with they are very patient. Ashwini's are very patient, and they don't mind, one researcher just for a century, uh, to sit in one system and observe a star. Usually longer than that, but so they didn't want any of the intellect to escape. They found the entire ideology utterly silly, because for them it was, oh, you think you're better in everything? Yeah, the positions that we have are based on merit, not on your genes or on the speed of your processor. If you want to get in that position, you need to prove yourself. Of course, there's always some corruption and everything, but that's kind of the most of the times the approach that we have there. So that's what we know. Yeah, Shone played a pivotal role in the defeat of Artilect, providing advanced weaponry to other species, or actually, it's the Artilect, by establishing the alliance, providing a species. For them it was like, send them, the weapons, but the oldest one first. So building the wall. And brutal cyber warfare. Or I would say just, brutal cyber and mass destruction warfare. So yeah, destroying a couple of systems, not an issue for them. So that's there. Post war. So after the war, the Shoni mainly focused on internal recovery. Exception to that is establishment of, saw that here, a Shonen Institute of Shonen Institute for Prodigies. So let's put that in. So, and what it does, that is an institute that kind of scouts the other species for, prodigies, or prodigious children. So children that have potential to become really great in technologies and other subjects that are of interest to the Ashoni. They take them. It's one of the very special uh, cases um, where you can actually go um, into the assurance space and they teach them. So they teach them and really bring up their potential. And this is also to benefit both the species that they come from, but also the Ashonians, because they can recognize, okay, we need some types very different perspective than our that's kind of our mathematical one. Um, and continued support of the alliance. That's like another thing. So we know very little about them. Okay, I have some delay in the screen capture. Interesting. So we know very little about them, and that's the that's where we are with this. So let's see, any requests or anything like that? If not, then I will slowly close this down. So closing, talking about how they interact with each other. So as we know from Ashanians, they are kind of their own thing. We don't really care. We just maintain the alliance and do little things on the side. Um, nothing too nothing too flashy or anything like that. So that's different. Though they do have maybe don't say like a soft spot, or it's like the embarrassing uh, for this while. That's like the embarrassing uncle when he shows up at family dinner or something like that. Or it's like say, oh my god, no, please don't. Um, Stuff like that. Kind of, and they kind of see it, in a way as a failure, and they are kind of at wits end, but they really because the alliance has probably the most military force in the Troel space, and that is because they are kind of trying to prevent the Troel going into fighting and conflict with each other, especially in the post still the story still takes in the post-war recovery. So they don't want anything that could potentially spark conflict or anything like that. So there's a strong military presence there. The Ashoni are part of that, so uh, that prevents that kind of keeps the local systems in check. Uh, so that's what they are. The Troll, again, they are focused on their internal squabbles, and that's actually more of interest to them than the other species. In a way, they kind of look at them, oh, you poor things, you don't have any, psychic powers. You have that stupid Vainu system. We can't even have multiple partners on any of the fun in the world, at least from their perspective. So that's that's what the 12 are. Of course, there are some that besides kind of like these indoor squabbles and everything, they are still you could say the biggest poets, and when it comes to artistic expression, they're kind of like the biggest ones there. And you have like, for example, I have like poets or another artist like I'm not getting any inspiration. I need some radical stimuli or something. Let's see. I've tried the orgy yesterday. That didn't work. Let's see. Oh, I'll go into exile. So, and similar, thought processes, crazy, crazy things. On the other hand, one of, kind of say, the biggest fighter in the Artelect War was a royal who quite brutally, killed the enemy, you could say, leader who started it. So uh, that one, and yeah, so that one, that guy is interesting. Let's put it put it that way. Kind of more of the brutal trial, but at the same time, he also is the most visible when he's kind of more like moving around constantly with the other species. So like one of the exceptions. Um, so then we have the Yarokdo. Again, they are kind of on their own because it's the most difficult for them to communicate with other species. So they don't really travel much beyond that. They are again big supporters of the alliance. The alliance headquarters is in their territory, so that's where kind of like more towards, as if we go back to the map. So the ring or alliance council that's right over here, kind of as closest to the middle as possible here between these. Um, so yeah, that's where they kind of are, and they just focus on Starcrest and being themselves, nothing, nothing like, oh, let us go and overwhelm the other species. Let's eat the entire universe. That's just like they're not interested in that. They're looking at the other species, especially, or like actually on all of them, like with, let's say, curiosity and uh, both from the, I could say, technological and biological, but also I kind of like that they are individualistic while they are very much hive-minded. So uh, that's kind of what they're looking at and thinking about. So we kind of look at the bigger, and they don't have any, you could say, conflicts. They are kind of bemused that the Grimnars kind of have, or the other End Souls kind of have, let's say, a fear of them. Souls probably, well, probably most Grimnars, because they saw during the Architect War what the warrior class can do, and it's not something that you want to really challenge. It's not pretty. So they're kind of bemused by it, but at the same time, they also have their warrior cast in sleep by the Grimnar border, if necessary. Uh, Grimnar are, they're focusing on themselves. They're kind of annoyed that they cannot continue their colonization efforts, that they're kind of stuck where they are. There is a bit of a, you could say, conflict with the souls, but before that, with the Yakuto, yes, there's a fear that if the Yakuto wanted, they could probably overwhelm uh, the empire, but at the same time, it's they have, could say, more pressing issues with the soul because they see the souls as uh, more unpredictable compared to the collective, because there are some border disputes, between the let's move it here, between the borders over here, and that's part of that is because when humans made it into space, made the first contact, there was a zone established that would be specifically for their colonization, and already there were some colonies, Grimnar colonies over here that they vacated and allowed humans to colonize. So, and of course, since as then the Miri moved to back home, especially then during the war, the Murray House is the shipyards. That's where most of the navy that the Grimnars have is being built. So of course, then the Soul Confederacy sees that as a threat because there's a significant, or I mean, like I say significant, it is significant military presence over here, and that of course causes tension because then we have our poor souls scared that the Grimnars are constantly poised to invade and uh, retake their lost colonies and all that stuff. So that is causing quite a tension. And they kind of asking if they could move the spread the ships more around the empire and all that stuff. And the empire's like, no, that's the Murray House is doing what they do because they gave up the colonies. And also, you have actually quite a significant, or no, well, not significant, but noticeable human population or salt population living on the border worlds. So there are some, claims that they should go or for protection of those, and usually actually it's the souls living on those. They don't want anything to do with Soul Confederacy. It's people who are kind of more inclined in thinking to the Grimnar way than anything else. So that's that. With the Soul Confederacy, there is, as I've discussed last time, the constant conflict between, say the home world, aka Earth, and the colonies. So, kind of the classical conflict between more centralization, less centralization, all that it inclines. And and with that you have many factions and many approaches. You have those that fear everybody around them, and some that don't really care that much for the other species at all. Especially through the alliance, they think they can focus on kind of gain as much uh, internal power and prestige and all that stuff. Especially since there's also space open for colonization, which means that uh, there is no longer, you could say, a release valve for internal disputes. So it's more internal conflicts, and then the conflict, you would say, or the disagreements with the Grimnar Empire is mostly used to kind of focus the energy somewhere else, so to an external enemy instead of internal problems. So story all this time. And of course, there is the fear of the collective, same as with Grimnars. If they wanted, they could just roll over us. Plus, you could say arachnophobia, all that, and just bugs. Maybe a bit of Starship Troopers reference here, so all that comes into it. And with the Ashonians, that's actually a bit special because there's a bit of a reverence because they were say really nice to them on the first contact. So and there was a lot of fear before the first contact of that it will spell the doom for humanity. And the Ashonians are just handled that perfectly. So there's a bit of a reverence to the Ashonians in that respect. Plus, of course, huge respect for their technological advancement, to put it like mildly, let's just say. And yeah, that's that. So that's been for let's say for today for the species. We'll see what will come next time. As I said, this was kind of by request a little bit, so feel free to leave comments what you would like me to talk about my universe, or maybe in general world building, how I'm approaching that. I will be taking a course from Jan Kotoč and Lucia Lukačovičová, which includes world building, but also kind of actually writing stories. So I'm hoping I can get more into it. So I'm kind of preparing through these streams to get back in and slowly putting entries in the encyclopedia. I will probably have to take a weekend or something where I'll just focus on writing all the different entries and fixing all the text, all that stuff. So there is still a lot more to do. So let's stop sharing, and I need to get a haircut. It looks so good. So thank you very much for staying here with me. Let me know if you have any comments. Not sure if it's working right now on StreamYard, but I'm streaming to X, YouTube, and Rumble. Storyteller CZ on most of those places. So let me know if you have any specific topic in mind that you want me to cover for next time. So in 2 weeks, I'll set it up straight after this so that we don't forget. And yeah, if you have any, or if you have like any other questions, feel free to comment. I'll be happy to respond. If not, be sure to subscribe so you get notified of anything new coming through. And if you are so inclined, especially if you come here from my open source work, technological work, you can sponsor me on GitHub. That will allow me to spend more time on open source. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think that's it. So I will see you on Thursday for Meteor.js news. On Monday, I have another pause hour, so I'll be focusing on open source. And then on the 18th, I will be back with another world building episode. And on the 25th, let's see, maybe I'll do something special. We'll see. So that was world building. This time looking at the species of the story of struggle for balance. And there is much more to come in the future. So stay tuned. And I hope to see you next time. Again, let me know what you would like to be. So with that, thank you very much. And if not, if you are just here for world building, see you in 2 weeks.